Hello and welcome to Crash Canon. I am Chris, the host, and I have a guest today. Would you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Hey, my name's Sam. I run the Master SAMWISE channel, which, it's always whenever I'm asked to describe it, it's like, I don't know. I just kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about within the realm of stories and media and games, books. Well, not so much books, movies, shows. But basically, I think stories matter a lot. I mean, they're one of the most foundational elements of like human society, human relationships. And as the last few years have ticked by, last decade plus, we've seen like our main storyteller, that being Hollywood, kind of start to really suck at it. And they still produce some good stuff, but there's also a lot of good stuff to be found elsewhere. And I guess the main theme of the channel is just stories matter. Here are stories that do matter. Here's why they should matter. Here's why we need to keep making good stories. And ultimately, here's how the stories that we watch, the characters that we see on screen or on the page, can help us grow closer to God, help us be better men and women. In 30 seconds, in a nutshell, that's me.
Very cool. And I like commentary channels like yours personally. It's what I used to actually spend a lot of time listening to. Probably about 3-4 years ago, I spent a lot of time listening to that kind of commentary. And then I started a YouTube channel where we interviewed lots of people that actually did that kind of stuff, which was interesting. And actually, probably you're one of the few guests that would actually have been a crossover with my old channel with the style of interviews we used to do, because your channel would have fit that mold very well with what we used to do with our interviews.
That was the Krillcast. That was your channel. Yeah.
We did a lot of interviews with commentators on that kind of stuff. So this will be an interesting one because we'll be covering stuff that I've definitely talked about before, at least. So, question for you to get started: what's in a name? Why Master Samwise?
Do I need to pull the book out for you? I can do it. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Samwise Gamgee is the chief hero, as Tolkien calls him, of Lord of the Rings. Right. He is kind of like the ultimate pinnacle of, even though my videos would suggest otherwise, because I name a different character the pinnacle of masculinity, but he really is like the fictional pinnacle of masculinity, where he's incredibly loyal, he's incredibly humble, he refuses power in like a way pretty much no one else could, and then he goes back home and gets married to the love of his life and has 13 kids. Like,
yeah,
this is the dream. This is what every guy in his heart of heart wants. So yeah, I mean, there's a gazillion different things you could say about Sam Gamgee, but his absolute dogged persistence and like sticking by Frodo's side, which is something it's the one way the movies really do him wrong, because he would never leave Frodo's side, never, not happening.
Oh yeah.
They also do Frodo wrong in that scene too, yeah, and then they don't include the scene where he has the ring and has his vision of the all of Mordor transformed into a giant garden, and goes, "No, I don't need that. Just need my own little garden, and I'll be happy." All right, so is the man, that's humility. He's a man who knows his place in the world. That's pretty much it. The master part comes from Star Wars, right? Master Kenobi, Master Yoda, blah blah blah, right? I mean, you see that in my logo. It's the frying pan, which is a reference to movie Sam Gamgee, crossed with the lightsaber, right? So, because when I started this channel out, it was just Star Wars. Like that, those were the videos I was making. I was talking about Star Wars exclusively for like, I don't know, first 10 plus videos or so, I think, and then I started to branch out. Now I guess Andor's out now, but otherwise I haven't talked about Star Wars a whole lot lately at all.
What's your favorite Star Wars game?
Ooh, that would be.
And why is it Knights of the Old Republic? No, I'm just kidding.
It's not Knights of the Old Republic. That would be Republic Commando, which is why I have these little beauties on the shelf behind me. These are presents for my wife for, I think, a couple Christmases in a row. So that's. So Republic Commando is a 2005 first-person shooter.
It was on Xbox, right?
Yeah, as an
And
Xbox
PS2 or
Xbox
not?
game. I don't think it was on PlayStation ever. I have it on
I think you're
PC.
right.
So I got it on a PC. I don't know, whenever I like actually got a computer that could run games, which is probably like 2010 or something. So family computer could not have handled that through most of my childhood years.
I get that. I get that.
But you basically, it's set kind of in the backdrop of the Clone Wars, where you play as the leader of a squad of elite Republic commandos and clones who are tasked with various missions going behind enemy lines to sabotage, destroy, disrupt, that sort of thing. But it's this really unique, at least until the Clone Wars series came out. It's this really like unique story of brotherhood within Star Wars. Like there was nothing quite like it. Obviously, friendship and stuff is a big motivator in the original trilogy. But these clones have like this this bond forged at birth or before whatever. But like forging like the crucible of training and then through combat. And they care about each other in this deep way that only brothers in arms can care about one another. And war stories have always fascinated me, and because of that aspect. So they're my favorite piece of media ever. My favorite, anything to be ever on a screen is Band of Brothers, which
I knew you were going to say that when you started going down that route.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I will stand by that opinion forever. But there's a line in there spoken by a German officer in like one of the last episodes. He's giving a speech to his men after the Germans have surrendered, and one of the paratroopers is translating for for the rest of them. And he says, like, you found it, found together, or found in war, like a bond that can be formed only in combat. And that absolutely fascinates me to my core. No matter when I think about it, I'm like, that is so incredible, because war is obviously just this horrific thing, right? It is a blight upon humanity and always will be. But I love that out of just one of the worst things you can imagine comes something you cannot find anywhere else. Comes a good that you can't find anywhere else. That's so cool to me. That God can take this horrible thing and forge a love that is just completely and totally unique.
Yeah, and really the closest thing most people get to feeling that war path, that brotherhood of war, is sports, unless you go into the military.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
get lots of these sports stories, and some of them are done well and some of them are not. But that's the closest you'll get without actually going into the military.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of this sense of belonging, right?
Yeah.
Humans are by nature like extremely tribal, right? You put two people into a group. I mean, they've done countless experiments on this, and they will identify with that group. I mean, that's kind of what sports are. And when it comes to war, obviously there's a lot more reason to want to belong to that group, because your very survival depends on it. And there's a lot of good in that. When it becomes kind of arbitrarily tribal, it can be bad. It's just pitting this us versus them, and that can be not great. But human beings are inherently relational, and like I said, so going back to the question, like the Republic Commando, like that's, despite it being this rather simplistic, very short, linear first-person shooter that has basically no cutscenes, or really what you would find in a modern game for storytelling. It doesn't have any of those modern cinematics. It tells a story of brothers at war very well, very efficiently. You understand
it's a good game. I've played the game.
Yeah,
it's a very good game. And what's funny about some of these older games that lack the cutscenes, they lack lots of different things that modern gaming has basically thrown in your face and said, this is what's a good game now, is if I remember correctly, that one has couch co-op, right?
I'm not sure. I haven't tried.
Pretty sure it does. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I thought it did. But the couch co-op for me, I mean, I don't know how old you are either. Are we close to the same age?
I am 31, I think.
Okay, we're pretty close to the same age. I'll be 30. I'll be 33 this year.
Okay.
But one of the things that I think forged good gaming when I was growing up was the ability to play with friends, and you could forge a sort of like pseudo brotherhood, sitting on the couch together,
Oh yeah.
going through the Halo campaigns, the Star Wars campaigns, whatever game you wanted to play, you could play with your friend right beside you. And then, you know, as we got older, it's like everybody's playing online. You're not doing that as much.
Oh.
So the cutscenes became more necessary to engross you in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
But
you know,
that
just
is a great game, actually.
oh,
But my
fantastic.
former co-host of the Grillcast, he loved the Republic Commando games.
It's a good man of your
Game.
taste.
There's only one, right? There was
There
supposed to
was
be a
only
second
one.
one.
There was a sequel that I don't think
Yeah.
they even got beyond the storyboard for. Yeah, that so when that comes out, that will be the greatest day of my gaming life.
So what
if
was
it
your
ever
first
comes out.
experience with Star Wars?
Oh, I'm sure it was. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head. I'm sure it was watching the original movie on VHS in my family's house back in how old, what, you know, I don't know, 2003 or something. Um, so probably earlier than that, honestly. So I watched Lord of the Rings when it came out. That was a couple years before that. So yeah, early 2000s.
Same.
Yeah,
I
watching
saw Lord
the
of the
original
Rings in the
trilogy.
theaters at like 8 years old or
Oh,
something.
I did too, man. They came out like right when I was turning like 8, 9, and 10 or something like that, and got to see all three of them in theaters. Oh, yeah.
It was pretty awesome, but I will say I was traumatized by Boromir taking the arrows at like 8, 9 years old, whatever age it was.
Yeah.
Like that scene has never left my brain.
I mean, they didn't hold back, right?
No, they
For a
did not.
PG-13 movie, like it's pretty brutal.
Yeah, like I'm like, okay, you know what? That was okay for me, but I don't want my kids seeing that at the age I watched it.
It's fair.
I stick with the Hobbit cartoon and the Lord of the
Mm,
Rings cartoons, and not
yeah.
Rohirrim yet. I just watched that the other night. Have you've seen it? I saw you had some commentary on it.
Yeah.
The thing that caught me off guard was the what the heck, the elephant getting eaten by the freaking watcher in the water, whatever the heck that thing's called. I was like, what is going on here? Like, this
I
is
don't
just
know.
too much for me. And I've watched anime before, so like it wasn't that crazy, but still, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
let's throw things from Lord of the Rings on screen and have them interact. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I mean, I think it was okay. This might be a hot take, but I think it was better than Rings of Power by a long shot.
Yeah, no, it's better than Rings of Power.
I still would probably give it to the old Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit cartoon over that, though.
Absolutely. But no, War of the Ring is better than Rings of Power for two reasons. One, I can see it. I could see what was happening. If you watch like the second season, I think the first few episodes of the second season of Rings of Power, which is all that I watched of the second season, it's so dark, like 80% of the time. I don't understand where the lighting budget went. The second reason is it didn't bore me to tears. I didn't love it, but it wasn't horrifically boring. And I'm a guy who does not mind slow pacing in stories. I rather
Me
like
either.
slow pacing.
As
But
long as it builds to
Rings of Power
something
works.
that I actually enjoy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it needs to be intentional. It needs to have. It needs to be set up. It needs to actually be going somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if I was gonna classify, you're like the original trilogy was your first experience with Star Wars, and then you probably went to the theaters for the prequel trilogy, like I did.
I don't think I did because I
Oh,
don't.
really? Okay.
My parents weren't like. My parents were definitely more like Lord of the Rings. We went to the theaters. My parents understood the ordering of these fictional worlds. They understood that Lord of the Rings was a much higher good than Star Wars. I love Star
Well,
Wars.
yes.
It's
Yeah.
clear and evident on my bookshelf behind me. But they understood that. So I don't think I went to the. I am pretty much 100% certain I did not go to the theater for any of the prequels. Because Phantom Menace came out in '99, so I would have been definitely too young for that.
You were like 5, 6.
Yeah, I was like 5, 6, something like that. And then was it like 02 and 05? So it would have been old enough for the next two. I mean, not technically because Revenge of the is PG-13, but whatever. And I went to see Fellowship when I was like 8. So,
Right. Yeah.
but I don't think we did. I'm pretty sure we didn't go to see those. I saw them, whenever they came out on DVD, and we got them from the library. I'm sure. I saw them not long after it came out, but it may have been a little bit because I have like distinct memories of being on a family road trip through Canada in the summer of 2005 and seeing constant commercials. Maybe this memory is wrong because I don't know why they're playing commercials for Revenge of the Sith. Also, it was just coming out on. They didn't even have Blu-ray back then. I don't know. Being re-released or something. I don't know. But I remember.
What year didn't Revenge of the Sith come out around 04, 05?
I thought it was 03.
Was
No,
it
it was
03?
05. It was 05. I just said it was 05. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say you said that, and then you made it sound like it wasn't. I was like, wait a
No.
second, which one
For
is it?
some reason, I was rewinding to 2003, which is when Return of the King came out. Yeah, no, I have my numbers mixed up. Yeah, So yeah, it would have been that summer because there were commercials on constantly on TV because we're driving around Canada, so actually staying at hotels, so we were actually watching TV, which is not something we did much. We just watched movies at home growing up, and so they're constantly commercials for Revenge of the Sith. And I remember my older sisters mocking Anakin's and Padme saying like, "Anakin, you're breaking my heart." And they mocked her mercilessly for that.
Oh my gosh.
And, deserved. Poor Natalie Portman.
Yeah, the writing was the problem, not her. She was doing just fine with the role. I mean, my goodness, but anyway.
Yeah, I know she had to work to like get roles after that. She's like, no, I'm actually a good actress, guys. You have to believe me.
I mean, she had a body of work before that too, though.
She did, yeah,
quite a bit.
I mean,
was V for Vendetta before or after? That was her, right?
Pretty sure that was before.
Okay.
I feel like that was earlier.
But imagine George Lucas like pitching that to her. You're gonna be a queen from another planet who falls in love with a 9-year-old boy. Like, wait, what? What are you talking about, George?
Yeah, I'm sure he saved that one until after
probably
they wrote Phantom Menace. But yeah, you've got this kind of like maternal relationship with him. It seems like you might be setting him to be like a mentor and guide to him as he goes to Coruscant. Now you're gonna fall in love. Psych.
That is kind of a wild storyline. I mean, it there's people who said that is basically a grooming storyline hidden in a children's movie.
Oof, yeah.
And I'm like, you're kind of right, but
I mean, she is canonically pretty young, like Padme.
Yeah,
right?
she's not
She's
old.
like 15 or something.
It's still bizarre.
It doesn't look good.
No, not in the movies anyway.
No, doesn't sound good either.
Yeah,
every
not
word
good at
out of
all.
their mouths. Yeah.
All right, let me see here. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say the audience doesn't really buy the love story, and from the way they acted, I don't think the characters bought it either.
Yeah. My favorite line: "I hate sand." So bad. Oh man, my first. So did you have N64 and all that growing up, or was your first experience way later?
No, we had a family computer, which could run Backyard Baseball and Roller Coaster Tycoon and
good to go.
Those are
Nancy
like Drew games, and that was about it. Yeah.
Actually, you had a very similar childhood to my wife then, because that was pretty much what she did growing up. Nancy Drew, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Zoo Tycoon too, though.
We never got into Zoo Tycoon or any of the other Roller Coaster Tycoons. Just had the original. I still to this day have only ever played the original Roller Coaster Tycoon. I have it. I bought it on Steam in like my senior year of college. I found it on Steam for like $6 and put 50 hours into it in the course of a semester.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I mean, talk about nostalgia. Yeah. All of the best Tycoon, build your own park games came out when we were like little kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it was like written. My favorite trivia about that game, which I'm sure everyone knows if you know about the game at all, that it was written basically entirely in assembly code, which is like one step up from ones and zeros.
Yeah, I mean, I took that class in college. I know what you're talking about.
Like, I've learned a little bit of assembly and stuff, and it's just like, this is impossible. The dude wrote a game in it, and that's why I can like run on everything because it's just
you can basically just that'll translate to almost everything.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Easily.
And he sold it for a couple $1 million or whatever, and moved on with his life.
What eventually brought you to starting a YouTube channel then? I know we already talked about the name, stuff but how did you end up on YouTube?
That's a very easy answer because it's a very specific moment in time. Again, we got to go back to Star Wars. Star Wars is, like I said, when I started the channel, I was only making Star Wars videos because my first one was a Star Wars video. So if you played the video games Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor,
I've played Is Fallen Order the first one of those two?
Yeah, Fallen Order is the first one.
I played that one.
Okay, and that's also the only one relevant to the story. So
Okay.
So that came out in 2019. I played it pretty much like right after it was released. I was like most Star Wars video game fans, absolutely dying for a good Star Wars video game, and it delivered. Right? I mean, I think it was pretty janky at first, with some bugs and graphical glitches and just
it looks pretty,
but it's a very good game. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Played it, beat it. I don't tend to like go back and like 100% games or anything, but I had a great time with it. Thought the story was good, the combat was great, the exploration was all right. It looked amazing. And then I don't know, I don't really think about it for another few years. And then in 2022, and like that summer, June maybe, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show comes out, and I think Ewan McGregor did the best with what he had of as anybody else, as anybody could possibly do in the prequels. I loved Obi-Wan's character in the prequels. Watched Clone Wars, really enjoyed his character in Clone Wars. And so Obi-Wan Kenobi show's coming out. I'm like, all right, we get some more Obi-Wan, hoping for some good stuff here. This could be really interesting, kind of exploring his time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. We'll see what we get. We watched the first episode, my wife and I. Also, she's also a big Star Wars fan, big Star Wars nerd. We watched the first episode, and she didn't watch any more of the show after that. I finished it because I ended up talking about it on the YouTube channel. But there's a scene near the beginning where the Sith Inquisitors come and they question this group of people on Tatooine, because all Star Wars takes place on Tatooine.
Yep.
Like, where's the Jedi hiding? And one of them threatens another. One of the Inquisitors, the main character of the show, really threatens one of the village. I think it's actually Owen. It's Luke's uncle. He
plays a villain on the show.
I killed this guy, and what?
His uncle plays a villain on the show?
No, he's threatened to buy the villain.
Oh, I was confused. I was like, really?
No.
That would be a twist.
Anyhow, so that scene happens, and as soon as I watched it, as I was watching it, I went, I've seen this done already, but I've seen it done better, because it's one of the opening scenes in Jedi Fallen Order. They're, Cal, your player character, is working at this scrap heap planet where they come and, they junk ships that are, derelict ships from the Republic era or whatever. And, there's an incident. He ends up using the Force to save his buddy. And then he, sure enough, it's discovered, reported. The Sith Inquisitors show up. They're questioning the group of workers. It's like the same scene. It's the same dang scene. Just with a different coat of paint over it in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show 3 years later. And so the video I made was just comparing those two scenes, basically, mainly the characters who are front and center in those scenes, the respective Sith Inquisitor, and why one worked, Jedi Fallen Order, why that one worked, why Obi-Wan Kenobi was bad. I made that video. I made like a couple other videos complaining about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And then I think I made some random other stuff that I ended up deleting. And then I kind of just left it. I think the video was even unlisted at some point. So this was in like summer of 2022, and then whatever. So it was live, that fall, and I think that October, that October or maybe November, I started to notice it got some more views, because I think it had like a few hundred views through the first few months of its life, right? Nothing really, and then it started like gaining views, and I'm watching it through November or early December, being like, oh, it's got like 2,000 views now. Check again a few days later. Oh, it's got 4,000 views. Like, whoa, this is crazy. And I'm like, all right, I guess I just make some more videos. I got other Star Wars stuff to talk about. There was, other show coming out, and that winter, and we were about to have our third kid. My wife was about to quit her job. She's working part-time. She's about to be done with that once our baby was here, and she could just be home full-time, didn't have to worry about working on the weekends. And then I put out another video finally. Just like I don't even remember what it was. And then on that day, as I upload the new video, the one that had been getting views just starts getting a ton of views.
Dang.
And within I remember, I think I was in the hospital as our third kid was like on the way. My wife was being induced when I hit 100 subscribers. And then within a month, I was at 1,000, almost entirely off the back of that one video. So yeah, that's what kicked it off. Just my deep and, it was my deep frustration and annoyance at the Obi-Wan Kenobi show for daring to rip off a video game that I very much liked, and then just doing it 50% worse. Like you could have at least improved it. You could have at least made it kind of the same if you're going to rip it off. And they blatantly ripped the game off again in a later series or series of scenes.
As Disney will do over and over and over again because they've made a couple dollars, so they're going to keep doing it. Hey, I got a game to recommend to you. Did you ever play Age of Empires growing up?
Not growing up. I've dabbled in it here and there, just kind of playing skirmishes every now and then.
This will run on anything, so I highly recommend you give it a shot. You ever heard of this?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Can you see it?
Oh, I can see it now. Yes. Star Wars Galactic Battleground Saga. No, it
runs on the Age of Empires engine. It's literally Age of Empires Star Wars. And it's actually well done. I mean, it's got like different campaign scenarios, war, etc., etc. You should give it a shot. Nice. It follows like the campaigns that happen in the movies. So like you could literally sim the battles from the movies and the various other storylines. They even have the Gungans as like a civilization. Which is like, how would you build a Gungan civilization and fight people? Whatever. It is what it is.
So I mean, is it essentially like a Star Wars scan on top of Age of Empires?
That would be a cheap way to do it. But no, because they have guns and stuff. Like the AoE 2 engine didn't really have guns. It didn't have they added a lot of stuff to make this thing like legit Star Wars. It's very well done. That's all I can say about it is I remember playing this for countless hours. And like if you type in, like in the chat of like Age of Empires, you type random stuff in, you get like cheats enabled.
Yeah.
There's like that's no moon, you get a Death Star in the middle of the game, and it's like there's no way the opposing army is gonna beat you. And then like awesome. You can get an Ewok with a lightsaber if I remember correctly. There's just all kinds of cool stuff. But it was a fun game growing up. I remember getting it at Walmart for like $5 as a kid, and I put it in my PC, and it was like, see you later, Mom. 500 hours later. But it the storyline's barely there. You know it's there because you know Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
But all of the battles are either books, movies, or they might have even invented a few. I don't remember for sure, but I think you'd like it.
That's awesome.
Okay, so that's how you started your channel, was because of a storyline twist where they used the same storyline twice.
Much.
And you said your wife also likes Star Wars. That's probably helpful with you making these kinds of videos.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be able to like do a lot of what I do if I couldn't just like discuss stuff with her. Right. We spend a lot of time talking about like the videos I'm making and the, the topics we're just, I want to discuss. Yeah. So
she's part of your brainstorming process.
Oh, big time. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is not huge on Star Wars. Her favorite one is Rogue One. And she said, 1, it's got a good story, but 2, everybody dies, so it's perfect.
Just so there's not going to be a sequel to it, or
I don't know. That's just what she says. She's got a good humor to her. She's big on Lord of the Rings, though. She likes that series quite a bit. So we watched that one. We've seen the extended version of Lord of the Rings like countless times together. So she does like that one. And then Narnia, she likes that one quite a bit. And
classic.
So she's more into like the more classic Christian media like that. Not so much into the Star Wars. She's like a bunch of dudes with shiny lightsabers, whatever.
Fair enough.
So you put the Star Wars video out, you did the comparison, your channel starts blowing up, you get over 1,000 subscribers. And how long before you started gaining momentum where you started really thinking this is going to make it? Were you already ready at 1,000, or do you think it was shortly after that?
I don't know if I really had like a vision for it at that point. I do remember thinking, I was like, all right, I'll keep making, I don't know. I didn't really have planned for, what videos. I was like, I'll make Star Wars videos and stuff. And it's like, I bet I can hit like 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. This would have been like 2023. Because I hit 1,000 in that January. And then I remember that February, just like, it was the doldrums, right? I put out a few videos, didn't do anything. Nothing happened. And then I was like, okay, maybe not. But then I found like these comparison videos. If you're doing like what I'm doing, you're doing like media analysis, you're talking about stories, do comparison videos. YouTube loves them. People love them. right? If you can find, two scenes, two characters, two different, a theme that takes place in two different stories, but one does it better, people love that. They love having this like compare and contrast that they can think about. And you're talking about that. I haven't done one in, and it's been quite a while since I've done real like comparison. No, I did one. I did one like self-actualization, right? So that's very much a trope and a theme in stories. That's my best performing video in the last like 6 months. So yeah, if you want to do like if you want to do what do what like my channel does in general, just kind of commenting on media stuff, do comparison videos. Not only comparison videos, but people like them a lot. So yeah, and that's the success that I found next was I compared the Obi-Wan show to Andor, which I don't know if are you familiar with Andor at all?
I've skipped most of the Star Wars TV shows, to be
Fair.
honest with you.
I had to. I did not intend to watch Andor. I'd watched like Obi-Wan Kenobi, watched the first episode of Book of Boba Fett, and I was like, okay, this is garbage. I was like, Andor, like I like Rogue One. I'm right there with your wife, who I'm a big fan of Rogue One. I think it's a really well done movie. But Andor was the a side character, not a side character, the secondary character, in a movie, and he's already dead. So I was like, I don't really know why I'd watch a show about him, and I have no faith in Disney Star Wars at this point. So whatever.
Right.
Then I kept hearing good things. I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And yeah, it's really dang good. Like, I mean, it's just actually well written. The people who are making it are competent and care.
Wasn't
and
Andor
it's
by
made
the people that did
things.
Rogue One?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Tony
that's what I
Gilroy, I
thought.
think, came in a little bit later and helped like rewrite some of Rogue One. But yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, so Tony Gilroy is the main writer on Andor. And yeah, I mean, it's really, really good. It's different from a lot of Star Wars for sure. Because it is, I mean, it's essentially a character drama set in the Star Wars galaxy. So if you don't like character dramas, you're probably not going to like Andor. I love character dramas. One of my favorite shows of all time is Better Call Saul. Most people like Breaking Bad better. That's fine. I like Better Call Saul better. Better Call Saul is more of a character drama. Not that Breaking Bad isn't, but like,
But Breaking Bad absolutely is. It just got a lot more going on.
Absolutely. But like Better Call Saul is this very. Have you seen Better Call Saul?
I've seen parts of it. I watched Breaking Bad back when I didn't have to worry about peeking eyes catching me whatever I'm watching. Whereas Better Call Saul came out more along the lines where like my child would start looking and seeing like, what are you watching, Dad?
Yeah.
So, and I don't really watch a lot of TV anymore. I do a lot more reading than TV and anything else.
Good for you, man. Good.
That's been a recent change. That's only been like the last 3 years. So
pretty good. But anyhow, I started making comparison videos basically about comparing Andor to Obi-Wan, how they wrote action better differently, how they wrote just like their overall like dialogue and writing quality, how they wrote tension, how they depicted the Empire, which that video did very well because Star Wars has a very bad reputation for its bad guys where they look largely just completely and totally incompetent most of the time. And then Andor went, hey, what if the organization that took over the entire galaxy was actually good at its job? Well, like, what would that look like? Would that be interesting? Would people like that? Turns out, yeah, people are really, really into that. They like when the bad guys are good at being bad. Yeah, that hits home. It's people enjoy seeing bad guys who aren't just, laughably idiotic and pathetic.
Meat's back on the menu, boys. No. I mean, the orcs is like organized chaos in Lord of the Rings. It's like you got, on the one hand, you have endless drones, so it's kind of a serious battle. But on the other hand, they're just so comically bad in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, they're the mass of foot soldiers, but then Boromir lost, right?
Yeah.
Yes, in the first movie, like the orcs, Aragorn can chop down 30 of them without blinking an eye, but one arrow, and that's something Pippin says. The mightiest man may be slain by one arrow. Boromir was,
It just made me think of that when you're talking about what if the bad guys were actually, good at their jobs. That works for all of their failures. I mean, they were very successful at taking over most of Middle Earth.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but and they were actually good fighters. They just were laughably stupid in their dialogue.
Yeah, the dialogue in the way Tolkien writes orcs, like there's whole conversations they have between themselves.
That
Like
never happens in the movies. Yeah.
no, I mean they're like in the orcs of like Barad-dûr and the orcs of crap, I forget. Like I mean, there's like inner factions within Minas Morgul. Like factions of orcs within Mordor that are bickering with each other when Frodo gets captured. It's fascinating.
What the movies chose to include is less interesting to me than what they chose not to include, because there's so much more there to that story. Like really, The Hobbit getting 3 movies was a disservice, because then you could have done 2 movies per book.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, I'm not mad that Lord of the Rings just got 1 movie per book. That I think it was
For
never
a
going to be
movie,
perfect.
yeah, I mean, movies
It just wasn't.
yeah.
It was never going to be perfect, and I think not that Peter Jackson is above criticism or everything. Not that he couldn't have done better. He definitely could have. There are quite a few areas where I don't understand the choices he made. But I don't think there's a human alive who would have done better than he did.
He did a great job adapting those books.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining. More so, like, it's impressive anybody could adapt those films in as good as a way as Peter Jackson did.
I mean, you didn't have to be fans of the books. Most people weren't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, The Lord of the Rings is the movies are certainly successful in no small part for the resurgence of like enthusiasm for Tolkien, just in general.
What was your first experience with Tolkien's writing? Was it The Hobbit or a different
It
one?
It would have been certainly like listening to the Hobbit audiobook, or maybe my parents reading it to me.
Okay.
But yeah, it would definitely have been the Hobbit.
Yeah, see, I had probably the weirdest path, because I read the Silmarillion in middle school, and that was my first experience with Tolkien. Because I had to do a book report, so I was like, well, this looks good, and I grabbed it off my sister's shelf, who was a pretty big Lord of the Rings fan. Little did I know that was not the book to start with. And trying to write
got through it in middle school.
Yeah, try writing a book report on that in middle school.
Dang. I mean, what do you even write about? Because the Silmarillion, I mean, it's a history book spanning thousands of years. What do you even do?
I don't honestly. My guess is the teacher just said, "You know what? You got through it, so whatever you write down will be acceptable."
If I was a middle school, English teacher, and someone came to me and was like, "I wrote this about the Silmarillion," I would definitely be like, "Yeah, you used AI. There ain't no way, kid." But back in the day, they were like, "Oh, well, wow, okay."
I was honestly, I need to go back and reread it. I just bought a new set of the entire it was Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, and The Hobbit all in one set. It was one of the leather-bound Easton Press sets. I was like, oh, this looks cool. And then I was like, that was not worth what I paid for it, because they're just so expensive. What's do you have like the Alan Lee illustrated versions? What's your favorite version of the books? Do you have any of those?
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about?
don't. I just have the books. I don't know. I mean, I can show them.
Okay.
They're let's see.
Yeah, one of the boxed paperback. Oh no, that is the Alan Lee.
Is that it? Sure. Okay.
So yeah, they're illustrated, right?
I couldn't even tell you. Let's see.
They illustrated. The amount of variations available for these books is insane.
I mean, yeah, can you blame people? I don't think if there are illustrations, there aren't many.
Okay, maybe it's not then. There was some really good Lord of the Rings illustrations done, and then there's a new version where they took some of Tolkien's art and inserted in the book. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Okay. No, yeah, there's not. I mean, I don't remember. I bought these probably like shortly after I got married or moved. Was like, okay, I need a set on my shelf that's not the because the version I had before then was just like it was one volume, which was how Tolkien wanted it, by the way. Right.
Yep.
He wanted it just in one volume, and I got that. That was something I got in college because I was in a seminar on Lord of the Rings.
You were in a seminar on Lord of the Rings?
So like it'll like
where on earth did they have a class like that?
Best school on earth, baby.
That's amazing. I wish we had anything like that. I had to sit through the worst film study class of my life, where they were like picking just films you've never heard of.
No joke. That's the exact class that I dodged to get into this Tolkien seminar. Like it was my freshman year, first semester freshman year. I had no control over the classes I was going to take. I told them I wanted to be an engineering major. Spoiler alert, I did not finish that major. I made it a semester. And then they signed me up to whatever classes. All freshmen had to take a seminar. And the one they signed me up for automatically was like Chinese cinema. And so I get an email, before the start of classes from the professor of that class. Go to the library, pick out a Chinese movie and watch it. And like, you don't have to understand it or whatever. Just come talk about it. I look up this guy and like rate my professor or whatever, and not great reviews. And went, okay, I'm going to try to get out of this class. And they have one on Tolkien, on Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'm going to try to get into that one. I'm going to try to. So I managed to switch. And yeah, so it was a good choice.
Yeah, so one of the films I had to watch in this horrible film study class, and luckily it was all online, so I fake it till you make it. But it was like called Birth of a Nation for like 1913 or something. It was like one of the earliest 3-hour movies of all time. And the premise of this movie is, because remember, this is post Civil War era, so like the filmmaker wanted to depict the South as the good guys. And so the end of the movie was how great the a certain organization with 3 Ks in its name was for coming out. And I was like, nope, I'm not writing a report on this. I will take the 0. I'm not watching it. Because it's just, I guess the reason why it's watched in every film study class, because it wasn't the professor's first choice either, is because it's the first movie to depict a wide shot of a battle scene ever. So like they put like a tripod with like the oldest camera you can think of on a hill and had a reenactment of fighting with like 300 people. It was pretty, I mean, it's impressive cinematography, if only the premise of the movie didn't suck.
I mean, at least there'd be a lot to say. I mean, there's a lot to criticize there.
Yeah. Cinematography though, I mean, like, yes, for 19 whatever it was, okay, sure, not bad. But the story, no thank you. No interest at all. Anyway, that was, there was another one where like there was this woman on a deserted island they shipped a piano to, and the whole story is about her husband who bought her from God knows where. It was a weird movie. This is the kind of stuff I had to sit through. And if I had a YouTube channel at the time, I would be roasting that professor. I would be roasting for the choices of movies they picked. It was just awful. Don't take film study. It's a blow off class, but don't take it.
I wish I'd been I kept up doing YouTube from back in the day. I had a channel back in like my latter high school years where I made like, I don't remember the era. People probably still do it, where you like overlay, you take clips from a movie and you play them and you play a song underneath it, popular song, Numb by Linkin Park or whatever. And you put like clips from, this is one I did.
You basically make a film music video, right?
Yeah, you make a film music video, like, Black Hawk Down. Like I said, been intrigued by war stories for forever. Over Numb by Linkin Park, got hundreds of thousands of views. That channel
probably got copyright struck into oblivion though.
I mean, I don't think copyright strikes were really a thing. I mean, they just kind of claim. I'm sure they just claimed it. Linkin Park was just like
back Linkin then. That copyright strike was the death of a channel.
Yeah, I think it was like you're uploading. Everyone was doing it. You're just uploading a whole song. Linkin Park's just like, all right, yeah, we'll take your ad revenue.
Yes,
I don't
that's what they do now. Anyway,
channel was. I certainly never applied for monetization because obviously I couldn't. I don't remember if you even could. This was 2011. I don't know. I found a free video editor, and just like went at it, and then dropped it for 11 years and picked it back up. Different channel. I was like, man, looking at these people who've been doing YouTube forever, I was like, I knew how to edit video together. Like, I wish I'd been on my game 10 years ago and like, just like, okay, I've got, I know how to do this to some extent. I can just keep doing this. Like, man, I'm missing out on 10 years of growth, right?
My only, okay, so no, not my only, but I had channels back in like 2007. Like I was early YouTube.
That is early YouTube.
Our idea was to take a digital camera, which back then, it's like nobody had digital cameras back then. Anyways, and we would film ourselves doing stunts like the movie Jackass.
Yeah.
And of course, those videos will never see the light of day again. I pulled that channel down because that was the best thing to do. and saved those videos to a hard drive somewhere that will never see the light of day. But all my friends and I, we all have copies of those videos we did back in the early 2000s.
Nice.
But what does still exist on YouTube is a Bigfoot hoax that Sci-Fi tried to buy off of me. It's still on YouTube. Yes, I swear to God, it's still on YouTube. Wasn't my idea, but I'm not going to call out whose idea it was, but I was involved. I did all the filming on it. A buddy of mine wore the costume, and we filmed in a patch of soybeans somewhere. And yeah, Sci-Fi contacted us back when YouTube had an inbox and messaging system, because they could actually reach you directly, which was kind of neat. But they wanted me to claim it wasn't a hoax, and I'm not a liar, so they didn't buy it off me. But they did offer me quite a bit for it. They wanted to roll it as B footage in their intro to the Finding Bigfoot or whatever.
Dang. So if you were unscrupulous about the truth, you could make some real money with some blurry gorilla suit footage.
Well, it did. So it made it into like Bigfoot, like these Bigfoot Facebook groups back in the day, and they analyzed it. They actually, before you had AI enhancement, they did some kind of video stabilization software trick back then, and this is like 2009. I found the post again like many years later, and every time I think about it, I'm just like, oh man, if people believe this stuff, imagine what stuff gets past their filter. I just can't believe it. They actually took stills from our video and compared the arm movements to what's considered the most famous Bigfoot tape of all time, the Patterson tape. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure I know the still. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, it's just like my jaw dropped. I'm listening to this guy analyze our video, which I know is a hoax, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, what are you doing?
Well, this is great evidence that the other one obviously is also a hoax. So
I think it eventually came out that one was a hoax too. But yeah, anyways, there was a bunch of Bigfoot groups that analyzed our video, and I was like, oh, you'll find out in 2025 when I finally tell this story.
Turns out when you go looking for something, yeah, you're gonna find it.
Pretty much. I mean, maybe that's a good transition to like, where did your faith journey start?
It was a very boring story because I'm a cradle Catholic, and I never fell away from the faith, so I never had a reversion. So thank you, Mom and Dad. I appreciate the heck out of you.
Shout out to Mom and Dad. So growing up, though, were you surrounded by lots of other Catholic friends and family and stuff?
Oh yeah. So I was not baptized at the parish I go to now, but it's the only parish I ever remember going to. You know, like as long as I can remember, we've been parishioners there. So I think we moved to this parish in like my parents still live in the house I was born in the hospital, but the house I was born in, my parents still live there. I know what you mean. And so we went to, you know, I think they tried a couple different parishes around there. I was born at one of them, and then they went to the parish I still go to now. So I've been going there since like 1997.
Dang.
So we're coming from like 30 years on our like third pastor since then, and like we've had long tenured pastors. Because the one who baptized all three of my younger siblings and who married myself and me and my wife, he left there like right around when I went to college, and then we had another pastor for 12 years, and we have a new one who just started about a year ago. So. Yeah, I mean, I met my wife through like the homeschool group there. Like all my friends in high school were mostly from our homeschool group at that Catholic parish. So yeah,
was it a pretty good size homeschool group then?
Oh yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, there weren't 20 people my age, but there were like, there were a few other guys my age and my grade, and other people, a year or two older or younger, for sure. My wife still sees her high school friends fairly regularly.
Wait, a lot of them. Were you guys high school sweethearts?
We didn't technically start dating till after I graduated high school. Okay. Midway through my freshman year of college. I'm a couple of years ahead of her school wise. But so not technically, but yeah, kind of.
So you guys were friends the whole time, essentially.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Her older brother is pretty much my exact age. So like we grew up playing like soccer together on the same team for forever. I was at their house all the time. They were constantly driving me to soccer practice and stuff. Yeah.
Neat. I mean, that's cool. I like hearing stories like that, because it's like not everybody can say they've known their wife like almost their whole life.
Yeah, I mean it's literally been like 25 years since we met.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we have only been we've been married for about 7 of those.
Yeah, me and my wife are coming up on a decade next year. It's a
Oh,
long time.
nice, congrats! You
Time
got
flies.
5 kids?
Yeah, we got 5.
Okay, yeah, we're one behind you.
Well, congratulations. That's
Thank you.
also very awesome. I'm assuming the oldest then must be like 6 or 7.
Yeah, he's 6.
6.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're probably like, you guys probably started like literally right after, because our second one's 6. So it's probably right down the line with your 4 and my
pretty much
after my first.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, we got 6, 4, 2, and a baby.
There you go. Wait, 6. Oh, 6, 4, 2 and a baby. Okay, yeah, that is 4. Yeah, we're pretty much right in line. That's kind of cool, actually. What's awesome. the breakdown? You guys have more boys, more girls, or halfway down the middle?
We got 3 boys and a girl. So our second is our only girl. And when we found out the gender of our 4th kid, she is old enough now to like know, kind of know the significance of it.
Yeah.
And she was rooting for her sister. She's pulling for her sister so hard. And I felt her pain because I am I have a younger brother and I have 4 sisters. But I am the 3rd of 6. My brother is the 6th of 6. And
nice.
He is 9 years younger than me. So I spent a lot of time surrounded by siblings of the opposite sex and only siblings of the opposite sex. So yeah, I was like, I know, baby. I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had 2 boys right out the gate. Then we had our girl. Then we had another boy. And she's now 4, but she was 3 at the time. And then we had our second girl. So we got 2 girls and 3 boys.
Nice.
But we had a similar breakdown until we had our 5th one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know, like most of the time, she's like, yeah, we have a boy, we have a girl, whatever. And ultimately it's up to God. Whatever God gives us is the best. But when, if and when we have our 5th, and we definitely plan on it, I will definitely be pulling for a girl. Like, come on, let's get you a sister, sweetie.
Oh yeah, I totally understand. Trust me. Once you got at least 2 of each, then you start feeling like, who cares which one's the next one, right?
Yeah.
But having like 2 siblings that are they're girls and boys, right? You want to have at least 2 of each if you can. Yeah. That's my opinion. Yeah. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but
I mean, ideally, yeah, absolutely. Because I'm still tightest with my brother of any of my siblings, even though he and I are 9 years apart, right? Just because we're brothers. And so like I'm thrilled for my boys that like the spread between them is all 3 of them, like they're within 6 years of each other, right? Like it's barely 2 years between our youngest and our youngest and second youngest. It's like I would have done unspeakable things as an 8-year-old to have a brother that close to me.
Right. Absolutely. And my boys have started having battle royales on our trampoline in the backyard. So they're buoying it up out there.
Nice. Oh yeah. You gotta, though I don't know if your daughter's at all like this, but our girl will stay right with her older brother.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she's also as big as him. He's tiny. He's sub 2 percentile in height. She's pretty average for her age. So she's as big as her older brother, who's almost 2 years older than her. And like she's a little more sensitive than him when it comes to physical contact and crashing into each other. But like she can and will go toe to toe with him. It's pretty funny.
It's funny to watch the siblings when you're like growing up like that, and that's why I think Star Wars is such a weird story, because you've got Luke and Leia who don't even know they're siblings, and then like midway through they do find out. The what is it, the 5th movie, they find that out after they've already had that scene at the end of The New Hope, and it's like, ooh, where she, what I'm talking about?
It's not even, they don't even find out till the 6th movie, isn't it?
Is it the 6th movie they find out? I thought it was in the 5th. Maybe it's the end of the 5th. Anyway, the sibling thing always messes me up because I'm like, clearly that wasn't the intention. After the 1st movie.
Ilonway, are you in chat? Do you know? You've got a better memory for these things. Ilonway is one of my people. I saw her in chat earlier. Yeah, she's 6th movie. Thank you.
6. Okay. All right. Never mind.
I'm pretty sure it's at the end. I think it's like in the 6th movie that he talks to Yoda, and he's like, Leia's my sister. And then they kiss in the 5th. That's right.
Okay, but Stuff is to say,
Anyhow.
boys. So I don't. Boys will find anything to fight with. My boys find sticks. They find whatever, and that's why I think the portrayal of those characters in that movie is more true to life, because you've got Luke fighting and Leia for the most part playing the diplomat, other than when she's shooting and firing and stuff. But anyway,
when she needs to, she will. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's why all women should be trained in firearms. No, I'm just kidding.
No disagreement here.
Anyway, so I'm assuming, as far as liturgy goes, do you have a preference?
I go to Novus Ordo Mass. I have my whole life. And I love it. I mean, it's a very, it's a very beautiful, reverent liturgy. Lots of singing, lots of chant, and we have communion rails that at the front of the church that get used. We're one of the only parishes I've ever been to that does intinction.
Hey, so does the one that I attend.
Oh, really?
Well, so it's kind of an odd story, but basically the school that my kids go to, they do intinction.
Okay.
And so does actually a TLM parish in my area, which is weird because I don't think the TLM usually has intinction.
I didn't think so.
But this one does. So I don't know. It's just, I can't really explain it. But the communion rails are making a comeback everywhere, or at least kneelers showing up at the front altar, which I do appreciate a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I try not to get too strict restrictive with like my preferences on how I want a liturgy to be. I find myself, if I go to a church because I'm traveling on vacation or wherever, and I end up at some church, and because it's the closest one to the hotel or something, I find myself being judgmental, and that's not the attitude I want to have at Holy Mass, right? Whether or not
it takes you out of the Mass.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here because their music's good. I'm not here to judge the homily. I'm not here to whatever. And there are some things that parishes have done. I'm like, yeah, I know you shouldn't do that. Like, you just objectively shouldn't use that type of bread. That's the wrong type of bread. What are you doing?
Wait, you've been somewhere where they had the wrong?
Oh yeah,
bread?
man. It
really?
was it looked like pita bread.
Oh my!
They had an unleavened host. I saw it when I went up for a blessing at communion, because I was like, I am not comfortable receiving that. I do not know what's going on here.
I've seen that before. Now you say that, I've definitely seen that at least once.
Oh, so yeah, there's but most of the time, you pick a parish, any parish randomly when you're traveling or whatever, it's going to be a Novus Ordo Mass that's more likely than not, somewhat contemporary and sing-songy and praise and worshipy or whatever. Okay, fine. Jesus is there. That's what's important, right?
As long as the Mass is valid, right?
I just want the Mass to be valid. I want to receive Jesus, and we're good. Doesn't mean I want to go to that parish regularly or necessarily even ever again. But
when you're traveling, you take what you can get, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think it is perfectly fine to have opinions and express preferences, and to think that some things are better, are kind of higher or more highly ordered. I can't talk. Are of a higher order. Like, I think receiving the Eucharist kneeling on the tongue is better than receiving it standing in the hand. Right? I think it's a more reverent, and thus better way to do it. But guess what? The church allows receiving in the hand. I don't, so, okay, I'm not going to, I'm going to do my best not to judge people for doing it. Right. It's one of those things.
Exactly. It's funny you say that, because it feels like sometimes when I bring up, for example, when I coached my own son having his first communion this past year, nice. And receiving the Eucharist for the first time, he was nervous,
Yeah.
Usually when you eat things, you put them in your hand and you put them in your mouth, right? Like that's, or fork or whatever you're eating with. So he was nervous to go up there and just, stick out his tongue and feeling kind of like a fool as the priest puts the Eucharist right on the tongue. But we encouraged him and we coached him. We said, listen, this is what you got to do. And, if you're not comfortable, just try it at least the first time and we'll go from there. If you live in my house, you're going to do it this way. No, but, he did it, and he did it just fine. But what's funny is, as we've gone through it, I've noticed other people, when you start to talk about the way you want to receive the Eucharist, they almost get a feeling of maybe guilt, like because they receive in the hand, and it's like, but I'm not trying to guilt trip other people into doing the way I do it. I just feel like it's the right way for me.
Yeah.
Does that make
I think
sense?
that's very important. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very important where it's like, this is how I want to receive our Lord, right? This is how I want to like dispose myself, right? How I want to, like position my body. This is where, where I don't want to do it because, I don't want to be showboaty, right? I'm not trying to be like, hey,
Yeah.
everyone, look at me kneeling. And I know that like there are people who would take it that way. I know there have even been priests who have, um,
I had a priest
like,
call me out
yeah.
in a homily when I did it once.
Yeah. And it's like, I think that's wrong. Like that, like you got to assume, that's one of the like core rules of like church life, like in relationships among members of our church, is that as in the whole Catholic Church, to like assume charitable intent, right? So if someone is, receiving, kneeling on the tongue, assume it's because they believe that is the best way for them to reverently receive our Lord, right? Not because they're being a showboat.
Do you know how
Right.
nervous I was the first time I did? 'Cause, I mean, growing up, I always received it in the hands. Growing up, like that's how I grew up. I didn't even know a communion rail was a thing. That was not. I didn't even know those existed. It wasn't until I was an adult, and I saw. I think it was Father David Michael Moses video where he talked about if we want more priests, we have to show more reverence for the Eucharist we're receiving. And I was like, you know what? I need to do this as in the most respectful manner I can. So I would just go up on a stone. Like the church does not have kneelers when I started doing this, and I just kneeled right on the ground. And I was so nervous, but I had talked to the priest ahead of time. I was like, "Is this okay? Can I do this?" And he's like, "Yeah. Just don't make a big deal out of it, and don't knock anybody over while you do it." I was like, "Okay." So I went down, kneeled, received the Eucharist, and I literally haven't been able to do it any other way since because it doesn't feel right for me to do it in the hand or anything else. So that's what I always do now.
Right. I
Because
mean, yeah.
one of my sons told me, he's like, I want to be a priest when I grow up. And I was like, well, I better start showing respect to the Eucharist in the way that
Right.
makes the most sense.
Also, that's how you know you're winning as a dad, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was 5 at the time. Who knows? But he still says it's something he's thinking about. So,
Hey, I mean that's awesome, right?
absolutely.
Goodness knows we need more priests.
So, do you have any opinions on music?
I don't have enough of an ear for music to judge it properly.
Fair enough. So you're not one of those guys that walks in, hears the twang of the guitar, and you're like, oh no.
I don't love guitar masses or drums, and like I do care. I do have opinions. I am very opinionated, but I also know that I'm just a big old moron when it comes to music. So whatever. I have certain hymns that I prefer. Right, "Oh God, Beyond All Praising" is the reigning champion of recessional hymns, and I will never back down from that stance. But other than that, I there's a Trent Horn put out a video a couple months ago about like some of the songs that are just bad.
There is
Um
quite a few.
and I'm like, yep, yeah. My wife, I forget which song it was that she'd complained about to me. That she did not like, but it was one of the ones that Trent featured prominently in that video. She texted me a gif of Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine going "Vindication" when she put out that video. It was very funny. It's just like yeah, there's anything that talks about like, I don't know, us, as in like we people. It's like, no, God's doing everything. Even the things we're doing, He's doing them. Right? Something fair is very important. Like we aren't doing squat other than perhaps, hopefully, acting according to His grace and carrying out His will.
I think though, because you have the ear for the commentary for movies and the ear, you have the voice for comment. I don't know what the right word to say here. You do a lot of commentary. The thing that always gets me is like the mass is not a performance, but at the same time, there are definitely things that can pull you out of the mass if they're done wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the reason I say that is because there are hymns where if I hear them during communion, I'm like, does this even make sense to play this song while going up to receive no. I'm receiving like Jesus, and you're singing like some sing-songy show tuney thing. I'm like,
Do
this
you have
is
a
not
particular
okay.
song in mind?
I pretty much the bulk of the hymns at the various parishes I've attended, like there's very few songs that fit that moment. For me, I'd rather have like no music
Mhm.
than some of the songs I've heard. Does that make
So, I mean,
sense?
I honestly like I couldn't really even tell you what our parish does for music, like what the hymns are during like communion. It's all just our choir, none of the congregation singing. Um,
Okay.
and but it's like it's all I don't know. I don't really hear it. I mean, but I don't attend to it, and I think that's good. So my
If
wife's
you if it what's the right word? If it puts your focus to the Eucharist and not to what's being played, that's a good thing.
yeah, exactly. So my wife's uncle is actually a priest in the FSSP. Um,
That's cool.
And I remember one of the things he said, I was talking with him about in his priesthood and everything for a little bit. And one of the things I remember him saying is like, my goal as a priest is to basically say mass in a way that no one like would even remember that I was the one who said mass.
Yeah, that's a good way to be.
And I was like,
I would
I think
agree.
that's awesome. Whereas like, yeah, this is not, um,
Do
yeah,
do the do the
you were not the most important thing up here, right? Like, yeah, that's got to be a tough balance to strike too, because you know your parishioners do need to have a relationship with you
yeah,
as a as you know as their priest, as their pastor, right? They are your flock, but also mass is about Jesus. Mass is about the
yeah,
sacrifice, right? It's not about how well the priest intoned his prayers, and and it's certainly not even about the homily, which this is that's kind of where Protestantism, as far as I kind of generally know, goes more wrong. It's skewing towards like the megachurch side, where it's like the focal point is the
well, yeah. If you watch a live stream of any of their things, it's like
yeah.
a 2-hour speech.
Oh yeah,
You know,
right.
they're
It's
long.
the sermon. It's just like the sermon. The sermon's the big thing, which yeah, preaching is important, obviously, but that is that. And this is, I think it's today Trent Horn's like highest viewed video, where it's like the Protestant worship problem, where it's like, is this the highest form of worship? Some guy,
No,
Pastor Bob talking to you, right? Like, is that it? Is that is that what we're here
careful,
for?
careful. We have a Pastor Bob from Chicago and the head of the church right now. I saw that joke the other day, and I was like, I have to use this on the
That
podcast.
is fantastic. That's great.
But I asked a priest about that, like exactly what you're talking about. It's like the priest is not like an actor in some grand show. The
Hmm.
priest is, in certain parts of what he does, he's in persona Christi, and he's doing things as representative of Jesus. Um, the thing that he said though is that when the priest has to face the people at mass, then he feels like he's putting on a show, as opposed to when he's facing the altar, where he feels like everybody's worshiping with him. And it's not, the focus isn't on him, it's on what he's doing as opposed to him. I was like, that's a really interesting thought process, because you do spend a lot of time watching the priest do things.
Hmm. Oh
Now,
yeah.
where you go to mass, is it low altar, high altar? What's the setup?
Um, it's
Do you know what I'm
yeah,
talking about? I'm assuming. Okay.
it's a low altar. I'm pretty sure. It's ad populi. But we have like there is a high altar. That's where the tabernacle is, and there's like the low
Yeah.
altar where the priest celebrates mass. And yeah, it is ad populi. I remember with our previous parish, our previous pastor, who was and is, he's just moved on to a different parish now. It was very, very traditional, very by the book, wonderful, wonderful priest. Someone asked him, like, why don't why don't we do things at Orientum? And his answer was basically, I don't want to, like, basically don't want to shake the mold too much. Like, he's like that thinks that would kind of like cross the line for some people, weird
Yeah.
people out. And yeah, I mean, again, that's a tough balance to strike. Where I've been to Ad Orientem Norvis Ode masses. I think it's really beautiful. I think it's super cool that like yeah we're like just the priest is presenting this on our behalf. Like we're all facing the same direction. That's super super cool. But if if the priest thinks that the best way to tend his flock is to, to face them, and even just because that's what they're used to, that's what most people are used to. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with it. I just thought it was interesting take that he felt like less of the pressure was on him to perform when he was facing the altar versus
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I think that's, there's just, I try to, when I think of liturgy and I think of like the different ways that people do it, the hardest thing, the thing that I try to do and fail to do almost all the time, is to just find like the beauty in every different way of doing it.
yeah,
Right. I mean, there
that's
are
fair.
obviously, like we've discussed, there are ways that things you just objectively should not do. Right. Um, there are
Yes,
plenty of
yes.
those, and plenty of places do them. You should not play Sing a New Church during communion. You shouldn't do it. It's a bad song, and you deserve your organ crashing and burning in the middle of it. I'm not making that up. That happened. It didn't burn. It didn't literally burn, but
Oh
the
no.
organ or whatever it was died. And we were on vacation and going to whatever church was near the hotel or where we were staying, and in the middle of communion, they're playing. I'm pretty sure it was "Sing a New Church," which again is a borderline blasphemous song. Anyway,
Mhm.
and the organ just straight up dies, and it didn't just like go. "Meow." No, it sounded like a car hit the side of the church.
Oh gosh, wow,
Like it's this
that's
massive
wild.
crash and just stopped and went, huh, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
That's amazing. I would have loved to have seen the reaction
Uh,
to that.
so, um, yeah,
I think the
but
important part is that whatever we do in church, we have to remember like that's our time with God, right? Like every
mhm,
Sunday, that's our time to worship him and do that stuff. And the one thing I get very frustrated with is just the amount of noise before and after mass. I'm like, Jesus is still here. We need to be
mhm,
quiet. We need to show reverence. I try very, very hard not to have conversations until I've left the building.
interesting, interesting. Okay,
Does that make
because
sense? I mean, because he's
yeah,
still up
yeah,
in like they put it in the tabernacle. He's in the
yeah.
tabernacle when mass is over. It's not like he left.
Interesting. I've never had a problem with it after mass. Because like that is, I guess, I don't know. That's never been like just never really thought about it that much before mass. Like, yeah, that's always like, quiet time for prayer. After mass and the choir is stopped and generally like, yeah, people talk. People go downstairs and we have hospitality downstairs. Coffee and
Well,
donuts
that's a
pretty
different
pretty much
story.
every
You're
week.
not in the
Oh no,
actual.
no, not even there. But like, I think part of that is to convince, is to get people out of church, right out of the sanctuary, right, out of the pews and downstairs.
Exactly. That makes
But
sense.
it's yeah. I mean, especially when we didn't have that every week, like I definitely hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. It makes sense,
Well,
and
when I look
but
around, there's
it's
usually at
like,
least 5 to 10
mhm,
people that are kneeling in prayer when church is over, and I'm
surprising.
like, I want to
Yeah,
respect their silence.
yeah.
So I try to keep my kids quiet. I mean, kids are a different story. It's kind of difficult, but I keep my kids as quiet as possible, and we march out after we do. We always do even if the priest doesn't do them, and this is kind of like a my family thing. But we always do the St. Michael prayer before we leave,
Hmm.
all together as a family, and then we march out single file out the back, and then depending on what's going on at the parish, then we either go home or we go do something with the parish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've it really does just kind of bother me, I guess, at this point.
Interesting. You would not have liked it. So when in college, we had mass in like there was a chapel in our dorm, and so we'd
That's
have
really
mass
cool,
there.
though.
Oh yeah,
I wish I had a
oh yeah,
chapel in anything to do with my college. We had a Newman Center, but that's about it.
yeah. It's a classic story. Um, but so we had mass like because we were college kids. Mass was at like 10:30 at night, I think, on Sundays. Um,
10:30 at
in my
night.
dorm. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is college, man. Come on. How many? What percentage of the time would you say you went to bed before 1 in the morning in college?
I had a full-time job, so probably a lot more
Oh,
often.
fair enough. Fair enough.
But I'm also somebody that doesn't sleep very much, so I'm all over the place with that.
Feel yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it was not a quiet affair before or after. I will say.
I believe it. I mean, but this is something I feel like the older I get, the more I feel this way. It wasn't something that I always felt like was necessary. On Sunday?
Yes, on Sunday, Haley. 10:30 at night at Sunday. That was the latest one. Other dorms would have them at like 8 or 9 p.m., maybe 10. But yeah.
I mean, that's still really cool. I like having a chapel in your dorm. That's awesome. I want that for my kids. Hopefully, wherever if they choose to go to college, hopefully that'll be there. The next question I had for you is, have you ever played Halo? I don't remember if we had this discussion or not.
Yeah, I've played every mainline Halo game, the campaign, not Halo Wars, but like 1 through 5 and Reach, and ODST. Pretty much just once through. I think I've played the first one a couple times, 2, 3, maybe 3 times. I played Reach maybe a couple times. I love Reach. Reach is probably my
Reach is
favorite
pretty
one,
great.
actually. Yeah.
That one actually was one of the first controversial Halo games, though. Did you know that?
Reach was controversial?
Not because it was bad.
Just because it didn't have Master Chief?
No. Well, to a degree, but they already had ODST, I think, first. Which one was first?
Oh, yeah,
Reach or ODST? I think it was ODST.
I'm pretty sure it was ODST because Reach was Bungie's like farewell.
Yeah. The reason why Reach was controversial was because it didn't follow the book The Fall of Reach.
Oh, yeah. It did.
So there was like
I've read The Fall of Reach, and I read it fairly recently. I did notice that, yeah, it was quite a bit different.
Yeah, so it was like, wait a second, everything is supposed, so like just kind of like how Star Wars, there was like mainline canon, and then there was like the extended universe,
yeah.
and but with Halo, up to that point, everything was canon. Every piece of media was considered canon for the Halo story. And then they released Reach, and I was like, wait a second. And then they had to do like, I think they did some retro. What is that called when you change something retroactively?
Retcon.
They did some retconning. I think there's even a revised version of the book that still doesn't get you all the way there. But up until the Halo show, that was the only evidence that there was a non-canon storyline anywhere in the Halo universe. And then the TV show came out and ruined it all.
Oh my gosh. I watched, I think, one episode of that and went, okay, this just kind of is bad.
Well, he had his helmet off more than he had it on. Like, that's just not okay.
I hate that. I hate that trend where actors are like, I got to show my face. No, you don't. Put the helmet on.
Master Chief does so many things without showing. It's like, you know, you think about a hero, right? And like, what how much more humble of a hero could you be than
we were just talking about
this. Never shows his face and saves everyone.
We were just talking about this. The priest does not care if the people recognize him for, his performance. He just says mass. Master Chief does not need to be recognized for, his handsome face. He just wants to kill the Covenant.
Exactly. And
okay,
I think there's something noble about that.
Lepanto asked a question, and I don't actually know the answer. But like, I mean, there's Sunday 6 p.m. masses all over the place. Like almost every parish has like.
I can tell you what he's talking about, though.
I know what he's talking about, but I'm not sure. Like,
so it's weird. It is weird though, because up until I want to say this was a Vatican II change, or maybe shortly after. The Bible starts evening, morning, one day, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you get the Saturday mass and then the Sunday morning. It's just bizarre to me, I guess, that we have Saturday night masses. 7. I always thought it was 4. Okay, so I thought 4 o'clock was the last time on Sunday that counted, but after 7, it doesn't count apparently. So did that count towards your Sunday obligation, or what was the?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a Sunday Sunday obligation.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious. Because obviously you want the college kids to go to the chapel and go to mass, obviously. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know I did that. Like my, they're like masses around here. Like I live in the Twin Cities area. I know mass like the Newman Center University like 9 p.m. I went to that multiple times like growing up because I'd have I played travel baseball. And if we couldn't make Saturday night mass, go to 6 p.m. Sunday. Sometimes I couldn't make it till like 9 p.m. But interesting. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I don't know if there's like exceptions for
the latest one we have in my area. I think they used to have a 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday mass.
Okay.
And I always felt weird going to that one, to be honest with you. I didn't like, I don't, first off, I just don't like going to Sunday night mass. It just feels weird. But
Yeah,
in
it is
college,
kind of strange.
I totally would have. Let's see here. Wait, did you? I don't think that's what he said. Haley's asking if you said Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm in the Twin Cities area.
Twin Cities. Yeah, she wrote Tennessee.
Yep.
Is Twin Cities Tennessee?
She edited it. No,
Oh,
Twin Cities
okay.
is
I was like, what?
Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Are you near to the certain dude that does Bible in a Year then, or is that quite a ways away?
He's a couple. That's like 2.5 hours north. Duluth is a ways north.
I meant to click this one. Apparently, the priest didn't get counted. I think,
yeah.
Honestly, if a priest counts it, I think you're in the clear because you
yeah,
obviously wouldn't know the difference, but the priest should.
No.
All right, let's see here. Okay, so anyways, the reason I asked you about Halo is I've been considering this for a very long time, doing a commentary on what's called the Forerunner saga. Have you read any of those?
No, I've not. I mean, yeah, I generally know who the Forerunners are, but no, I've not read the books.
So the Forerunner saga was written by Greg Bear, who did a bunch of, I think he did Star Wars books. I think if you looked in the Star Wars series, I think he did a few of those. He wrote some of the best Halo literature out of all the stuff I've read. And it's essentially Noah's Ark in space. Because he takes the flood and makes them like the flood of space. And then they basically kill everybody in space to prevent the flood from taking over the galaxy. And then you repopulate the galaxy after that. So it is a very complicated sci-fi Noah's Ark.
Gotcha.
You probably enjoy that one actually if you give it a shot.
I'm sure I would.
I don't know how much reading you do, but
that's one of I do not as much as I would like. A lot of it's due to lack of time. A lot of it's due to just bad habits. When I have like moments to relax and settle down, I'll pull up YouTube instead of opening a book, which is a habit I'm very recently I'm doing a little better. But yeah, I love to read. My bookshelf isn't just for show, I promise. But yeah, I have several Halo novels actually up there to the right of the or my right, to the right of the red helmet. I have like the kind of the original Halo trilogy plus the
couple
Flood.
Master Chief stories.
Yeah, they're all.
I've got those too.
Yeah. So I've read The Fall of Reach, and then I was reading through The Flood, which I'll probably just kind of skip the rest of it because it's just the story of Halo CE.
Yeah, right.
But I did enjoy the Fall of Reach for sure.
The guy who voices Guilty Spark, you know what Guilty Spark is?
Yeah.
Okay, he's the narrator if you get the audiobooks for
fun.
The Forerunner saga. So you're like listening to Guilty Spark literally narrate the whole. And then the funny thing is he's in those books. The character who becomes Guilty Spark is in those books.
That's funny.
Because originally he's not trapped in an AI robot.
I was going to say, I feel like that's he's an uploaded consciousness.
Yeah, it's a major plot point. Sorry, I just dropped that in there. But
that's okay.
If you do end up reading them, it's such an interesting because you find out the origin of the flood and the Forerunner saga is all in there. It's kind of it's a story of actually it fits Genesis in there too, because the whole idea is that the humans are tempted by this chemical thing that they don't understand to try it on various things and experiment with it, and it turns into the flood. And then it's like, oh no, we've accidentally unleashed this on the galaxy.
Go back.
Yeah, exactly. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. You're stuck now. So I guess maybe this is a good question for you. How important is it to you that there are Christian morals in the stories that you're reading? Like, is that a aspect that you look for when you try to find books?
I mean, that is hugely important. So, I mean, that is kind of the whole philosophy of the channel, is that wherever I can find, Christian morals, even in stories, that most stories, especially the ones today, are not going to be written with Christianity really in mind. Some definitely acknowledge it, borrow elements from it, but wherever we can find Christian morals, which are just morals, right, good morals, true morals, then yeah, I mean that is very important to have that in. Don't
tell the atheists. No. They don't believe you.
Yeah, they don't believe in anything.
Right.
So yeah, that is incredibly important. I struggle a little bit with the idea, is the necessity of having to, in in doing what I do on the channel, having to engage with, having to praise even things that I know are not that I know are imperfect, right? All right. So take something like Andor, right? Recent show, very very good. I'm a big fan of it. I will tell people to watch it, absolutely. But it has a lesbian love story in it.
Ooh, I
Um,
did not know that.
right? It's a fairly minor point, but like it is a thing. It exists. And it's something that like I've in videos acknowledged and been like, yeah, I'm not gonna be rooting for that because like I have Catholic Catholic sexual beliefs, right?
Right.
Or beliefs on sexual ethics. Like so that's something I try to be upfront about, especially when I come across that sexual morality is gonna be the main thing in stories where I'm like, I'm going to like have to feel like I have to state my objection to this, even as you engage with what is interesting and even good about like the relationship that's being shown. um and like in the themes that they portray, where it's like, okay, this cost of um the cost of war that's kind of being paid by these two women, where like they're sacrificing their friendship, let's say, right, for it. Like that is very interesting. That's a theme worth exploring and thinking about and talking about. It's just, instead of being a friendship, it's something that is immoral. And
Well,
that's kind of tricky
that's
because
been inserted in a
uh,
lot of storylines lately.
oh
Like I
yeah.
try looking up kids shows for my kids, and even like that Jurassic World kids camp thing that they've got going on, where you got like dinosaurs and stuff. At the end of it, just randomly, I guess they insert this love storyline between two of the girls, and I'm like,
Ugh,
oh, that was unexpected.
yikes. Yeah.
Um, but then there are good new media coming out. Have you heard of Wing Feather Saga?
No.
It's a very Christian oriented storyline, but it's got a good storyline on top of that. Unless you're looking for the Christian part of the story, you're not going to find it. And so it's a good. I would even put it up there with almost like a C.S. Lewis and not quite Tolkien, but it's up there. It's very well written.
Okay.
It's not by a Catholic, as far as I know. I don't think he's Catholic, but it is very good. And they're currently working on a TV show. They're on season 3 coming out this fall, and the books are done. So I've read all the books, and the books are very good.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah, I do have a general theory that okay, so
oh, hey, Haley said he's
is
Anglican, so
Anglican.
close,
Okay.
close,
Yeah. Um
close.
if it weren't for that darn Henry, he'd be Catholic. Um
Yeah,
there's I can this here. You'll hear people say, everything woke turns to crap. Now, I don't like the term woke because it is far too general, far
it
too
is.
overused, and is become basically meaningless. It is a thing that people argue whether or not something is. People are like, oh, the Spider-Man game is woke. No, it's not woke because this, yes, it is, because this. Why are we arguing about over whether or not, if it's this arbitrary definition that you clearly
It's
don't even agree
subjective.
on, right? How about you argue about what is and is not good and true and beautiful about it? So let's go there.
You want to go to the objective truth, not the
Yeah,
subjective opinions.
yeah, exactly. So, but to some extent, it kind of does hold true. Where if you are woke, as in if you are focused on, you are prioritizing injecting a certain set of values or worldviews into your story, especially when they weren't baked in at the start, your story is going to turn out to be kind of bad in the end, even where it was good before. Um, and because it's like that's where you're devoting your energy. This is what we've seen with Hollywood in the last decade or so, whereas they're just obsessed with it, and you can do it with anything, right? Christian movies are generally pretty dang bad, right? They generally
Because
suck
they force the Christian morals
because
into it,
they're
right?
not movies. They don't care enough about the movie part. They don't care about telling a story that will get people invested. They don't care about quality writing or acting or, plot development or anything. They just want to preach the gospel because which is good. That's good. But they want to just do it in this format because, oh, that's the popular thing. That's dumb. Go preach the gospel on a street corner. That'll be more effective, right? If you're going to make a movie, right? And again, this is what Hollywood's failed to, is they're like, oh, we've got this platform. We have to like preach our message, which is not even like not even a coherent or decipherable one. It's mostly just like, women good. Yeah, we're agree. What are we talking about again?
They're essentially saying like, Pan, everything is good. Except what you Christians want. That's not okay. Everything else is fine.
So that like, I mean that's basically my theory is that woke Hollywood, to use a way too generalized and overused term, is bad not because it has the wrong values. It is bad because it has the wrong values.
Yes,
but it's bad. They're bad storytellers because they care most about imposing their worldview on a story far more than they do actually telling a story, right? They care about being preachers more than they care about being artists, and we pay them to be artists. So, they're going to get replaced by other people.
Do you have any idea what she's talking about?
No, except that Haley is clearly typing on her phone.
Yes. Yeah, clearly. See if you could figure out what you meant to say there, because I have no idea. All right. The thing that people forget is a good story will still be read by many people. So like, that's why the Iliad and the Odyssey, despite being different from Christianity and also predating it to a degree, is still widely read in schools and studying Greek history and whatever. That's still read. It's a good story. It doesn't have values it's trying to preach to you. I mean, maybe it does, but they're mostly just generic heroic values and other things. But
so good stories will give you something to think about. Bad stories will generally try to tell you what to think.
Yes, exactly.
That's kind of I would agree with that. In a nutshell, that's it, right? And this is why, like, something like Andor, again, this is not something that, like, if I had a conversation about politics and morality, about sexual morality, immigration, abortion, pick a hot topic issue with Tony Gilroy, the creator of Andor, it would be more of an argument than it would be a friendly discussion, most likely. But he cares more about being a storyteller than he does about proselytizing. So, and that makes this story something worthwhile, because it gives me something to think about. It gives me something to talk about, right? And when you have that like something to talk about, that lets me, on YouTube, explain, like Catholic thought, Catholic social teaching, even if not couched in explicitly, Catholic language. Right? That's generally what I do, right? Take Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of my
I love Avatar. I love it. I honest to God do not care that is an Eastern religion show. Avatar is awesome.
Avatar is incredible. But again, because it does that well. I mean, it shows you timeless virtues in its heroes, right? Iroh's the perfect example. He's incredibly humble. He's perseverant. He loves like nobody else can love, right? I mean, you have see someone like Sokka, who is just like, you're like, aha, he's comedy relief, and then you realize, oh no, he's actually like really smart, and
yes,
he's super hardworking, right? He's incredibly dedicated to his friends and to his sister. Like, this guy's actually really, really admirable in all these ways that are universal. I don't like using that term sometimes because the Catholic Church is universal. I don't like using it and seeming like it's opposed to Catholic, because of course that's what Catholic means. But it's more,
these are morals that people
accepted,
that people agree on.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, like humility is a virtue. Like, that is accepted, is universally accepted by people who are not Catholic.
Yes.
So we shouldn't say universally, because there are definitely people who don't pride themselves on their humility.
They probably lack the morals. No.
But I don't think it's good.
I think Avatar is one of those shows that if the original storyline of it were written predating Christianity, people would refer to that as like one of the noble pagan stories.
Mhm.
That's my personal, you know what I'm talking about? Because like C.S.
yeah.
Lewis refers to the quote unquote noble pagans. I love Avatar. I think it's one of the best kids animated shows ever written.
That's one of the best shows ever written.
Yeah, because I mean I say kids, but like it's one that can be viewed by adults, teenagers, even children could watch it. And there's, I mean, really, it's appropriate for all ages. You can learn something from it. I love the Avatar show.
Oh yeah, I mean, in terms of like a truly like all ages universal show, I don't think you can beat Avatar, right? Because it is written to be digestible by children, so it's not going to be as mature, as complex, as nuanced, as layered as, you know, something like Better Call Saul. But it is still incredibly
Is this
deep.
true? Did the voice actor change?
Yeah. The original voice actor passed away.
I didn't realize. I thought he made it through the show. I didn't realize he died during the show.
Honestly, if I didn't just know that from various things, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that.
Now I'm gonna have to rewatch the third book and see if I notice or not.
No,
the thing that took me out of a show though was watching Avatar and then watching Samurai Jack and realizing, oh, Aku is literally Uncle Iroh. I was like, what? I was so confused. Have you seen Samurai Jack?
No, I haven't seen Samurai Jack.
It's another actually very good show. It's got good storytelling.
I know I've heard that recommended. Is the main character a samurai named Jack? Because
he's literally his name's Samurai Jack. Yeah. What happens? No,
his name's just Jack. He's a Japanese samurai named Jack.
He's got to be Japanese. Yeah. Anyways, the whole opening scene, you know, like everybody talks about Up having such a great opening.
Oh yeah.
The opening to Samurai Jack is like, I guess I had never seen it until I was a adult, because I finally watched the first episode of Samurai Jack, and I was like, oh man, there is a lot going on in this first episode, and almost all of it occurs with no speech.
Yeah,
it's amazing how much a story can be told without having to tell you the story.
Mm-hmm. It's a lost art.
Like it's really, you know what? That's my favorite video you did, was Hollywood Thinks We're Stupid. That's my favorite one you did on your channel. I went and watched that one.
We'll take it back. You have bad taste. That's far from my best video.
That's my favorite one because the commentary hit me. I was like, man, like that is so true, because Hollywood is so lazy that they tell us what they want to tell us about a story before you even, like, you don't even have a chance to make your own decision on a storyline, and they're already telling you what you're supposed to think.
It's a really bad like cycle, because I mean, we're the ones looking at Twitter while also watching Netflix.
Yeah.
And I still look at my phone while watching something. I still do it. Right?
I don't anymore. If I'm engrossed in something, I set the phone down and I try not to do that.
That's what I'm trying to do, but I'm very bad at it. I'm incredibly distractible and I have a terrible attention span.
If you want to read more, put your phone somewhere else.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, if my phone is within reach of my arm, at some point I will end up going to the phone. If my phone is charging in a different room, I will finish a book in one night. It's seriously no joke. Like I was able to read. I read like 3 of the Chronicles of Narnia in one sitting, like 3 hours.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So you read pretty fast.
Now I do. You had asked me that like 3 years ago.
Out of necessity.
It took me a year to finish one book. If you want a great slow burn, have you ever read The Count of Monte Cristo?
Oh man, if I have, it's been a long time. But that's one of the books where I'm like, I need to read that again. I don't remember.
Well, every single movie changes the ending, because the ending is so good, but it takes so much buildup to get there, and nobody ever has enough time to film all the buildup.
Interesting.
It's like in the original book, it's a revenge story, but he realizes revenge is not something to aim for by the end of the book. But in the movie, they just give him the revenge story. It's like, let's just simplify this. Give him the revenge story that you want, and then just it's like, no, the book has a much better show. It's like, you're not getting the revenge story because he realizes revenge will never heal the wound in his the story. And the real thing he needs to do is live his life, and that's the best revenge he could have, is actually having a good life and living a good life.
Yeah, I don't think I have that, but that's one of the ones where I'm like, oh man, I need to actually pick it up and read it. What I'm reading right now is Shogun, which is the series, which is the first part of the book, came out on like Hulu or whatever last year sometime. It's about a dirty Protestant who ends up in Japan, which is currently only being only like the only other like Westerners there are the Jesuits, basically. So he's
That's
kind of the main
wild.
character. But it's really well written. It's really interesting. It's very just frank about what life was like then. At least, I mean, I don't know how historically accurate it is. Probably not very, because it is a novel. But like, from like their customs and their attitudes and stuff seems, pretty on from what I know. And it doesn't like a lot of shows and stuff will try to will really polish their main character when they want you to root for them and just to make him out to be, like him or her, make him out to be kind of like no flaws, no real vices, just a nice person. The main character in Shogun, he's kind of a dick. Like, he's foul mouthed, he's coarse, he's but it's very really interesting.
Do you know what? This is a viewer from your channel, right?
Yeah. Let me.
So this comment is related to the Count of Monte Cristo movie, which, by the way, I don't know if you were a fan of Harry Potter or not. I personally am not, but the actor who played Dumbledore in the first two movies played the cellmate of the Count of Monte Cristo in the movie, okay, which was really it was a great character choice or actor choice for that character because he fits that role so well. Anyways, but yes, I agree. In the movie, that's probably the best version of Count of Monte Cristo is the Jim Caviezel adaptation around 2001 to 2003 timeframe. But yeah, he gets the revenge anyway. So he acknowledges it's not the right choice and does it anyway. It's just, yeah. Nobody gets that ending right. Nobody. Yeah. But it sounds like Shogun's an interesting. Is this adapted to film or just a book?
So I mean, it's a book. The novel was originally sometime in the mid 1900s, I think.
Okay.
And then it got adapted to a TV series in I want to say 60s or 70s, maybe 80s. And then a new adaptation came out just last year. And it's not a whole book. It's just it's just season 1, so I'm not sure how much of this 1,300 page book is contained in that first season. But yeah, it's kind of there's basically there's a bit of a power vacuum in feudal Japan with their the leader, not the actual shogun, because there isn't a shogun, because the shogun has to be descended from one of 3 families, divine families basically. And there's various daimyo, however you pronounce it, vying for kind of trying to replace the late Taiko, and but he's got an heir who's not old enough to rule. Very kind of classic kind of power struggle story with this twist of a Westerner thrown in there all of a sudden, because they basically crash land on Japanese shore after sailing across the Pacific, and it's set in late 1500s. So different from most anything I've read, so I'm enjoying it.
What's your favorite piece of media that hasn't been adapted to film?
Ooh,
it's getting harder to find these days.
Tough one. It is. So if you'd asked me that not even 6 months ago, I would have said the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson.
Is that coming to film?
No, not anytime soon. You said hasn't been adapted to film, right?
Yeah. Is it because of the ongoing storyline changing kind of vectors? I heard some murmurings that he was adding some stuff that's kind of woke to the story. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's definitely that. There's there's a trans character just randomly in this ridiculous medieval time like fantasy world. It's like, okay. And I'll honestly, but just like the fifth book, which came out last December, I read it. I got to the part where this character shows up. And okay, I'm gonna put this down for a while. I was like, I'm so mad. This is so stupid. And then I picked it up and I finished the rest of it and I went, okay, just like thinking about that, just from like a, being more objectively, less of a moral standpoint, which you can't really set that aside. But thinking of just like from an artistic storytelling side, it wasn't that good. It didn't wrap it up satisfyingly. The prose was off. The characters felt all the same. It got really repetitive at points, and it was like, this just wasn't a very good book. Like, what the hell happened? Because the first three, there's 5 books, 5 like 1,000+ page books.
Does the 5th book wrap it up?
No.
Or is it still got more going? Oh,
like, it's supposed to wrap up, like it is the end of arc 1, but that doesn't mean jack, because it wraps up basically nothing. Infuriated me. So this thing that hasn't been adapted to film, because that's like, I mean, I could include one of his earlier trilogies when he was actually like, I don't know, being a proper Mormon in his attitudes towards sexual morality in his stories.
Was he Mormon? I didn't actually realize that. I know the Ender's Game author is Mormon.
No, Brandon Sanderson's a Mormon. He just apparently disagrees with his church's stance on some stuff.
I thought I read he left whatever church he was a part of. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't really need to, I'm not really worried about his personal life. I mean, I for a soul, sure, but I don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But so his earlier like Mistborn trilogy, which is one of his I think it's his first trilogy, not his first book. Those are really, really good. I'd love to see that. I'd love him to straighten out first, though, honestly. Other than that, I'm trying to think. I'm looking behind me. So a lot of this stuff like has already been adapted to to film and stuff.
There's an author I really like called he's John Marco. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure what his religious beliefs are, and it's been years since I read his books. So maybe I would have a different opinion now. But I just read one of his newest books, and it's essentially a pagan culture that meets a monotheistic culture, or a triune, whatever. Yeah. It's basically pagans meet Christians, and then Christians decide that they decide to like rebel against their own leader, who is like a Moses figure, and so then the pagans crush them in their because they didn't follow their God. Kind of like what happens in the Bible over and over and over again when the people of God decide not to follow him. It was kind of an interesting story because it does fit the biblical narrative so well.
That's cool.
But like I said, I don't think he's actually, it might be Christian, but he's definitely not, doesn't talk about it publicly anyway.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I get that.
The book he just wrote is called The Bloody Chorus by John Marco, and it's interesting. And then there's a series of books before that he wrote, which were, I think it's called the Bronze Knight trilogy eventually, although he wrote a bonus book and one of the main characters is a gay king. So there's that. But the original trilogy was good. And then he wrote the follow-up book, which was also okay, but it wasn't as good as the trilogy.
That's right. No, I haven't heard of those.
He's a lesser known. He ended up losing his book deal with, I think it was Tor Books. Because he started some other like young adult books that he was writing that didn't get a sequel because they didn't sell well enough. But he's a really good writer, actually.
What's his like main strength?
He writes a lot of fantasy. A lot of what he writes, though. What do you mean?
I mean, like characters, world, plot, prose.
I've never read another series of books, at least when it comes to the Bronze Knight trilogy that he wrote, where it had the same feel to it. All the characters had kind of their own thing going on. The atmosphere was different. It feels like I can't tell you another series that felt like this book series. There were some things that I wish weren't in those books, but again, I don't think he's outright telling anybody that he's a Christian or anything like that. I don't even know if he is, to be fair. Okay. But one of the things I do like about his books is almost any time somebody gets access to magic, it goes horribly wrong. It's like the second you try to get an advantage that's, unnatural or artificial in nature, it just goes poorly. It's like, don't try to seek these things that you don't understand as an advantage over your enemy. Like one guy takes on this armor, and the armor is like enchanted or something. And then he realizes after he's put this armor on, like he forgets like everything that happened, and he killed a bunch of people that he didn't intend to kill. And then he has too much strength and accidentally kills somebody that he loves. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, don't ask for more than you can handle. It's a major theme in his books. Anyway, I really like them. I'm going to reread them at some point to decide if I want to keep them or not, because I've been doing that lately where I'm like, okay, I liked this book when I was younger, but my morals weren't as strong when I liked it. So let's see if it's still good. Does it hold the metal that I thought it did? But I really liked those back when I read them. I will warn you, there's some rated R scenes in those books, but again, hard to find books that don't have those in them these days.
Oh yeah. The other series that came to mind when you asked that question was I don't know if you've heard of Red Rising.
That sounds familiar. What is that again?
Hang on. I'm trying to remember who the author is.
I feel like that's come up on my list before.
Pierce Brown is the author. It's a trilogy. Let's see. At least I've read trilogy. I guess there's 6 of them. Oh, good. I got more books to read.
There you go.
But it's it's a sci-fi series where basically I don't remember a whole ton of it on it anymore. Trying to remember when I would have listened to it. I probably listened to the audiobooks back when I was like working night shift 7 years ago or so. So that's probably why I don't remember very much, because my brain was fried that entire period. But
I feel that. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've worked enough night shifts and got through audiobooks and been like, man, what did I just listen to?
Yeah. But it's about, a kid who basically kind of enters the, this military service in the sci-fi galaxy, and they put him through in the first book anyway, kind of this, their boot camp is basically this like large scale, a lot of competition between like these tribes of kids basically. And like kind of his story of survival and then eventual like success and his kind of, military expeditions and stuff throughout the galaxy. A lot of like political intrigue and stuff like that. I don't remember him very well, but I liked him. I remember liking him. That's basically about it. It's like, okay, I got to reread these books, but I do remember liking them a lot.
What about Dune? Have you given that a shot yet?
Okay, so this is one of my more controversial opinions. I don't think Dune is that good.
The book, the movie, or both?
Yes. I haven't seen the second part of the Dune part 2. So I picked up.
Don't watch Dune part 2. It's not even as good as the first part.
No, I wasn't really planning it. So I picked up Dune, I think before the first movie came out, or the first Timothée Chalamet movie. I know they've made a Dune movie before. I was like, all right, I'll read Dune. I've heard that's a big thing, and I really liked the world building. It's super cool. Just like, they kind of this economy piece created off this one, this one planet, this one, element, the spice or whatever, this kind of like practically runs like the galactic economy, and like how, they're like wrestling for control over it, brings about all these things. And there's a lot of, mystery to like the, whatever the random ladies are who like come test him. He's supposed to be the
Bene Gesserit. Yep.
Yeah. Right. And he's supposed to be this unpronounceable, character of legend, Quasitzheteroch or whatever. I was like, can't you make things a little more simple?
Yeah.
Like,
well, he stole a lot of those elements from the desert religions, like the Muslims, the Zoroastrian, all that stuff.
Okay. So like the world building and the general plot, the world building is excellent. The general plot's pretty good, aside from its pacing, because the pacing is weird. It's super inconsistent. And that really it wreaks havoc on the characters and like their development, especially Paul. I think Paul is one of the most boring protagonists I've ever read. I don't care about him. He's not interesting. He's just not. I don't care. And like, I know that's a complaint people have about like Cassian Andor in his own show. And it's kind of a valid complaint. I like Cassian. I think he's a better character than Paul Atreides, because it's just generally a better written series. But he's objectively not the most interesting character in that show either. They've fleshed it out with a lot of other side characters whom they could do more with, because you didn't know they were going to die. You know, Cassian Andor is going to die. But Paul is like, I don't mind the chosen one as a trope. I like Luke Skywalker. Again, not the most interesting character, a solid character. I love Aang. Aang's an incredible character, right? The chosen one can be a perfectly well done trope. Paul is just boring. I don't know what else to tell you. His son dies at like the end of the first book, and he's just kind of it's a footnote.
It is. Yeah, there's barely anything about it.
I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I don't feel anything because I don't know the kid either. But shouldn't this be important to him?
Actually the adaptation that's closest to the books is the sci-fi miniseries.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Did you know that there was a sci-fi miniseries?
I knew they'd made something else on film. I thought it was a different movie, but I knew there
was. Yeah, in the 80s they did.
Okay.
And they actually ruined the ending. It was David Lynch, who I actually do respect quite a bit as an artist of film. Have you seen Twin Peaks? It's kind of an oddball show.
I've heard of it, but no, I've not seen it.
I'm not going to say I recommend it. It's kind of a bizarre show, but he did Dune and he regrets it, but he actually changed the ending. At the end of Dune, they have rain. It's like that doesn't even happen in the books. They make it this planet. Yes. Like, because Paul is the savior, so of course we have to have rain at the end of the movie. Anyway, it was just like,
do people know how, like, I don't know, general biology works? You have rain, great. It's sand. There's nothing in there to grow.
Exactly.
Rain's not going to do anything.
It's like, why is there? So people have actually, because that was the only thing available for so long, people went back and like edited it, because there was actually a longer version when they released it for made for TV version. They wanted to fill a certain amount of time for the time slot for commercials and stuff.
Yeah, naturally.
So they added in deleted scenes and didn't tell anybody. So the TV version was longer. And then people took the TV version and they took the released version and they smashed up together, because they actually took things out. It's like a whole problem. But they actually took and edited the best, longest version of the original Dune movie from the 80s. And even then, people are still like, this could have been done better. This is just, it's not like the extended versions of Lord of the Rings where you actually get something out of it. But anyway, but the Dune miniseries actually has the banquet scene, which nobody else has done. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not remember that.
It sets up Arrakis to really show you what that planet is like, with the intrigue and like the various factions that are fighting, because everybody shows up to the banquet and you find out all about everybody that exists on this world you've never been to, and you find out which political factions are together. I think the Harkonnens are there, or something related to the Harkonnens are there. One of the other dukes is there. Anyway, excuse me. It's just like a whole lot of intrigue that is missing from all of the other adaptations of Dune. Anyway, I think there was one other thing I wanted to ask you. Was it? It was. You know what? I'm gonna say I can't think of what it was now. Oh no, I do remember what it was. So, do you think that more books or more movies could do adaptations of the Bible well? And if so, what would be a good example of something that's already out there that you like, that is an adaptation from the Bible?
So this is my other hot take. I don't want anymore.
Oh, you don't?
I genuinely don't. I don't know. I don't generally like it when things are made based off a book and they change things from the book. That's not necessarily bad. You can improve on other works of art. Works of art are perfect. Right? The Lord of the Peter Jackson's movie arguably made Boromir a better character. They added stuff to him. They had that conversation with him and Frodo, or not with him and Aragorn in Lorien, which like really added some depth and some relatability, likability to his character.
Otherwise, he's really hard to like.
A little bit, yeah. He is more. He's certainly. He's also they made him more of a villain in the movie than he really is in the book in the first place, and they kind of gave him like this lighter side, and this like kind of brighter sides, right? So there's kind of the little bit of more of a contrast within him in the movie. But anyhow, so I'm not just all that to say, I'm not objecting flat out to any changes made to anything, but I just when you're adapting the Bible, I would just feel so uncomfortable if I were in charge of making a Bible adaptation. I would feel so uncomfortable like doing anything other than writing exactly what was in there.
Yeah.
And so that's I was like,
no artistic license whatsoever.
Right. I would feel very uncomfortable taking that. Very uncomfortable. And that's not to say I'm like, but that's not to condemn people who've done it. The Passion is a wonderful movie. It's great that Mel Gibson made that.
Yes, I agree with
right?
that.
So there certainly is value in it, right? Like, having Prince of Egypt.
Prince of Egypt is a really well done movie.
Right? So there's a lot of value in that, but just I don't know, with the state of like Hollywood and media in general, like I just would tread extremely lightly.
Which one do you think was done better though? Joseph, King of Dreams, or Prince of Egypt?
It's been way too long. Off the top of my head, probably Prince of Egypt, but it's been way too long. Prince of Egypt, I would say I would give Prince of Egypt the edge. Again, don't remember well enough at all. But purely because I've been listening or have heard somewhat recently Prince of Egypt's songs, and they're absolute bangers, like top to bottom. Playing with the Big Boys now.
Oh, they absolutely are.
But the music is so good.
You're playing with the big boys now. Yeah, my kids sing that one all the time.
Yeah, but
my kids love that movie.
Yes, so good.
Yes, it is. The other one that you didn't mention is the Chosen. Do you have a hot take on the Chosen?
I have not watched The Chosen. I have no interest in The Chosen. That's my hot take.
Fair enough. I was just curious. I watched season 1 or 2 and then I never finished it.
So there's a YouTuber that I've watched for over a decade at this point. His name is Jeremy Johns. He's a movie critic.
Yep, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I must have started watching him in like 2012 or something. But it's been a long time. And so he reviewed The Chosen, The Last Supper Part 1 or whatever it's called, because it actually came out in theaters, I think.
Are you talking about the Thief on the Cross thing they did?
No, it was called like The Chosen, like season 5, like The Last Supper.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
There was like a theatrical
release. I stopped watching it though, so there's that.
The Chosen did some sort of theatrical release that was like The Last Supper, and he reviewed it, which was kind of surprising. I knew Jeremy he is Christian, at least was. I'm pretty sure he is. I know he said it in the past. But it was funny. He starts that review. He's like, so I haven't been watching The Chosen at all, but so picking it here, but it's like I've read the book, so I think I'll be okay. That was pretty funny. But that's kind of my take.
I've read the book.
I've got the book. Like I'm fine. Again, I don't think it's wrong to make it at all. If you can reach people by telling God's story that He has given us in a compelling and creative and just generally well done manner, that's fantastic. But it's just something I think needs to be handled with extreme care.
All right. Well, then I'm going to give you one more book recommendation, if that's all right with you. Unless you've read it. Maybe you've already read it. Have you heard of the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis?
Oh, yeah. I have it.
You read it?
It's been a long time since I've read it.
Okay. Okay. You have the 3-in-1
cover?
Yeah. Okay. I've seen that one before. I had a hardcover that I gave to a friend who was going to read it. But I've got my favorite C.S. Lewis book is probably Paralandra.
I think that was at least last I read it, which was a while ago. Paralandra was definitely my favorite of the three.
It's like the retelling of Genesis, but in space and
trying
to keep Eve from eating the apple. It's
such
an interesting concept of a story,
right?
I don't know how you'd adapt it though, because the characters are all nude. I don't know why C.S. Lewis made that choice. Oh, the innocence thing, probably that's why. But I don't know how you can put that to film. You'd have to tastefully edit things, I guess. I don't know.
It's not a good story. It's interesting. I mean, nudity in art is obviously like, plenty of literal just paintings and are, from Michelangelo or whatever are in the nude.
I just mean you could never hand that to Hollywood and not have it turn into something terrible.
the thing with like, so here's the thing with like nudity and sex in stories and shows. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to like write a book where like you shouldn't be going into details and graphic detail about things, but like where you
That's
even
usually where
have
I find
characters,
issues.
right? Like if you have a character, you know, who acts in an immoral way sexually, I think it's like you could definitely do that in a book, and I think that's okay to do. It's not okay to glorify it. It's not okay to like show it off as a good thing, but you know, it's okay to include that, like it is to include any other sin in a book, right? You know, if you're handling it appropriately and you're not, you know, not glorifying it, not showing it as a good. The problem with having that in a movie or in a TV show or even in a video game with, you know, motion capture actors is that you're making people simulate this together, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you talk about like I remember you know, pick a scene where it's like, yeah, Oppenheimer, right? This is a biopic about his life. You want to tell the story of his life accurately. He's a bit of a philanderer. Okay, like it'd be dishonest to not like depict that. But then you've got to have people like getting together naked and like, yeah, these two grown
But
people,
that
like
could
they
happen
should
off
not be doing
screen.
that.
I mean, that can
Right?
happen off
Yeah,
screen.
there are better ways to, right? Like the way that, you know, it's not, there's a wrong to show that he was doing this because you're trying to depict the man accurately.
And the scene when him and
Yeah.
the woman are entering the door, and then
Cut away and cut away, fade to black. We've lost.
exactly. We don't need this
We
part.
don't need this. Yeah, I don't need it. So
I still haven't seen Oppenheimer for that exact reason.
Yeah, that's
Purposely
fair.
avoided it.
This is very. I watched it back a while ago for, you know, for YouTube. I went to see it. And a very good movie. I mean, you know, 3 hours long, but kept my attention very, very well, despite it being mostly just scenes of people sitting and talking.
It's a super interesting time period.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, those like 4 years kind of dominate the mind of every like teenage boy in America, I swear.
Yeah,
I certainly was
either
no
that
exception.
or Rome.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Actually, the last show that I really got into like that one was Chernobyl miniseries at HBO. That was actually was well done, but I can tell you I personally was picking out every flaw that happened in that show because I know that story very well. Let's put it that way.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I watched that not too long ago, and I mean, I thought it was excellent. It was super well done. Yeah, but I'm sure, you know, historical liberties are always taken. I did crack up at the end where they introduced, what's her name? The female nuclear scientist, Homyuk, I think is her name.
Yep.
And they introduced her in like the first or second episode, and I'm like, huh. I'm kind of surprised that there's a female, like, was she Ukrainian, Belarusian, like, you know, nuclear physicist, like in this world. Like, this just, I don't know. It was a man's world. What can you say? And then you get to the end of it and realize that no, she is actually fake. She was like made. I
was going to say that was.
She's like in assimilation of all the other like scientists who are helping them. I was like, oh, it's kind of funny.
Also, the scientist's main scene at the end in the trial, they didn't even invite him to the trial. He wasn't even there.
That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. I was during that scene, which is a great scene.
It is fantastically done. Yeah,
loved it. But I was like, why are they still letting him talk? Like, why is he being hauled away in handcuffs or just shot at this point? Like, I feel like they would not be letting him talk.
Yeah, he wasn't even there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Additionally, there's another scene which to me, I still don't know why they even scripted it that way. They have the doctor telling that woman that her child had absorbed all the radiation and therefore the child died. That's not how radiation works. It's just flat out. It would either take the mom and the child together, or they would both have received an equal amount of radiation from whatever happened. And maybe the child would, but it wouldn't have absorbed the radiation from the mom and saved her. That makes like no sense at all.
Saved the mom's life.
It makes no sense. Just like, that is not. Why did you do this? It makes.
I knew next to nothing about radiation. I was like, oh, okay, weird.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if that's somebody's first taste of understanding that concept, and they think that's true, like, what the heck? You can't put that in there.
It's not practical knowledge that's going to doom me in an everyday life situation.
Right. Well, yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, it was just like, it's not how it works. Anyway, there anything I'm going to give you an opportunity? Is there any questions you had for me? I know I've got you for 2 hours at this point, and I don't want to keep you too much longer.
No, you're good, man. You're good. You coming to Creator Conference next year?
Next year, it's a possibility. This year, not so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely be love to actually meet you in person.
Yeah, I'd love to meet all the people I've talked to in person at this point. I do intend to. I got to apply. When I originally interviewed Kyle, he had told me that the applications were in like December or something like that, and I interviewed him in March. He's like, "Well, you missed the cutoff," and I was like, okay, well."
Yeah, I know it filled up pretty fast, just initially. So it's cool. I mean, yeah.
Shout out to Kyle and Drew and everybody that works on the Creators Conference, for the Catholic Creators Conference. It's really cool, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, go check it out.
It's gone from Kyle's vision of 6 dudes in a cigar lounge to 80 people in descending on Steubenville, Ohio, in basically a year, which is pretty cool.
But yes, I do want to get out there. I'm hoping next year I'll be able to make it work.
So, so I haven't really talked to you about your channel before, but like, what is your vision for for Crash Canon? What do you think the Holy Spirit is calling you to here? What's
I want kind of a normal conversations amongst Catholics about their faith and what they do and their hobbies, and kind of normalize this kind of stuff with everybody else, because how many people can talk about their faith for 2-3 hours or what they do? It feels to me like these conversations need to be had on more than just a few channels on the internet. And if I can help facilitate that, help more people find just normal Catholic ideas, that'd be great. Does that make sense? I hope that's
absolutely. No, I mean,
we're just normal people, us Catholics out on the internet,
That's very similar to like kind of what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, where it's like, yeah, again lately on my channel, I've just been like a little more open about just like, I'll quote Catholics a lot, right? My last video, I quoted John Henry Newman, G.K. Chesterton, and Carol Wojtyla, though I accidentally put Joseph Ratzinger in the video, which was really embarrassing. But it's like, yeah, let's it's one of those things where, yeah, I think, like you said, we're just normal people, right? We're people. We're here. We exist. Like Hollywood, modern media like to pretend that, like, faithful people who believe things that they find horrifying, even though they couldn't really tell you why, don't really exist, right? They're off on the fringes, in the living off of alligator jerky in the Everglades, like that. I was like, no, that's not true. We like the same things you like, cheer for the same sports teams you do. We believe different things, and that's okay. Let's talk, right?
Do you want to hear the saddest thing I've ever heard? I met somebody in college where their only interaction ever with the Catholic Church was fighting the Borgia Pope in Assassin's Creed. That was it. That was their only. Yikes. And it's not like they were like going out of their way to find Catholics or anything. I was like, I'm Catholic. Whoops, I just bumped my mic. I'm Catholic. And he's like, oh, I didn't even know that. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And that's part of our like problem, where it's like, I don't know, religion has been, shunned to the side. Don't talk about religion. It's like, we can though. Again, it's G.K. Chesterton, where I think I forget what newspaper he's going to write for. They're like, don't talk about religion or politics. And he said, what else is there?
What else? Yeah. I actually had not read any G.K. Chesterton at all until about 6 months ago.
I've read very, very little.
Well, you should start with The Ball and the Cross. That was a good one.
Okay.
It's two dudes dueling, debating atheism and Catholicism.
Okay.
Like literally, the whole book is them dueling and debating their religious identities, I guess. Okay. It's such an interesting book, and it parallels with a lot of the other books he's written. But I read that one, and I read what was the other one? Orthodoxy at the same time. They actually are very compatible books. But anyway, anything else?
No, I think I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate you. Always appreciate good conversations, and yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody who is somehow subscribed to my channel and not subscribed to Sam's channel, make sure you guys go check.
Unsubscribe for me. You can only be subscribed to one, and you got to pick Chris. You're here. You have to pick Chris. I'm sorry.
You can go check out his stuff and see if you want to subscribe there too. Absolutely. On that note, I'm going to let you know though, the this conference room we got going on here on StreamYard, if you hang around after, it doesn't go away right away. So if you want to chat for a minute before you log off, or if you want to log off, that's fine too. I won't take offense. I'm just letting you know that since you haven't done StreamYard in a while, it doesn't kill it the second I hit the end. But Dark Souls.
Oh man, I don't know, man. Sacrificing my Friday nights to do pull-ups and like be on stream is not an easy choice for me to make. I want to do it, but it's just like I got to do it I got to finish it by the end of the year. But yeah, it's hard for me to get that Friday night.
What is the challenge exactly again? I've seen your other channels. I found them on your links or whatever.
So basically, I play Dark Souls, and when I die, I do 10 pull-ups, and then I keep playing.
Oh, okay.
So
there's a lot of pull-ups.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been like I think a couple of months since I've done the last one. I was consistent there for a little bit, but yeah, I don't have a ton of time on my hand, so it's like kids are in bed. I want to spend time with my wife. I don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to limit my podcasting to like one night a week, best I can, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Well, Levanta, let's see if we can hit the hotel gym at the conference. So we're just gonna get you up there, and then you just hold like the flex arm hang as long as you can. You'll be at 10 in no time.
Well, if we do have another conversation in the future, we'll have to talk about fitness because I'm working on that as well. We'll see where we get. But I used to do lots of the pull-ups and the chin-ups and all that other stuff. Just not push-ups. Push-ups, for some reason, my wrists do not like push-ups at all. Weird thing with that. But anyway, that's not really part of what we were talking about. Go check out Dark Souls next time he does it, though. I might have to tune in and see how that goes.
Yeah, Friday nights, supposedly. Maybe I'll actually get around to it this week. We'll see. Oh, man.
Well, on that note, I'm hitting the end stream button, and we'll see you guys next week. Well, I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. I'm not a host here.